Well, today's episode, we're just going to be reviewing two events. The first one is from Las Vegas promotion, Future Stars of Wrestling with No Escape Execution Day, where we have a couple of championships on the line, but the last three matches features steel cage matches, which explains no escape. But we're also going to be reviewing AEW Dark Elevation with 9 stack matches. I believe we're going to have some interesting ones we're definitely going to be talking about. And then finally, we're going to end it by some news updates to tell what's been going on in the world of pro wrestling. So, let's get ready for another episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome everybody to Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J Rod here. So let's begin with Future Stars of Wrestling, or FSW for short, with No Escape Execution Day. This was, of course, in their native town of Las Vegas, Nevada. And this recently happened last month in January on the 29th. Now, there's still some shows I haven't seen from that month, but since we're still early February, that doesn't mean I cannot stop watching it. So let's get started with that. Our first match, we have a guy named Class. It's CLAS. Nope, double S on this one. Versus Remy Marcel. Now, I can tell this type of match tells like a different story on this one, where you have Class, who's like trying to be the top guy and whatever. Marcel, who is the fan favorite in this particular match, but however, that match did not go in favor of Marcel, thanks to Class's brother named Devin Reno, who decided to help his brother, costing Marcel the match. But the ref did not see what happened, but it was a pinfall made by Class, giving him the W. Now, our next match is one of few championship matches that are been decided. This one is for the FSW Nevada State Championship. Yes, folks, there is a championship that is part of that says Nevada State, since I mentioned their promotion is in Las Vegas, Nevada. This is between Damian Drake versus Gregory Sharp. This one is a 2 out of 3 falls match. Now, anything could happen. Like, we could normally see in matches, one guy wins the first fall, the other one second, but the third fall is where it becomes more critical who's going to walk out. And I think that's what took place in this match. The first fall goes into Damian Drake. Second fall goes to Gregory Sharp. But man, the third fall to attempt, I have to say, was the most critical one I've seen. So basically, it's like, okay, Gregory Sharp, who worked real hard to get this win that belt, he wasn't going to let someone try to take it. Damon Drake, who felt that he deserves to be that guy. But however, in the end, it took only a Liger bomb by Gregory Sharp to put away Damian Drake to retain the title in the third fall. So, Gregory Sharp retains the title. Next up, we got Jordan Oasis versus Big Money Clutch versus Mondo Rex versus Jacob Austin Young, and finally we have Juicy Finau. Now, the logical thing in these type of matches, the scramble match, is to find the much bigger threat. In this case, is Juicy Finau. Now, it didn't start out that way, but however, they soon realized Juicy's the one person they cannot allow to continue, since he is the much bigger threat. But however, in this case, it was Juicy who walked away with the victory with the J Driller onto Mondo Rex. Now, if you guys remember the J Driller, this is one of them finisher moves by the late Jay Briscoe. I thought that was a really good touch. I'm not sure if Juicy ever met Jay Briscoe, but he did. At least he did it in his memory. So it was a pretty good match. So basically, the bigger threat walked out. Now, our next match is the FSW Tag Team titles. We have Lights Camera Faction consistent of Fresco and Watson taking on TBD, Hirolu and Shogun Jones. This is where this match is more like tells a story. Okay, Lights Camera Faction. Even the commentators mentioned that they prophesized themselves that they're going to walk away with two of the championship matches, and this is one of them right now. So I thought it was a pretty good one to show. I wasn't entirely sure how this was gonna be, but however, you can tell by the look of Jones and Hero that they were not gonna let, of course, the faction, Lights Camera Faction walk out. But unfortunately, somehow they were able to isolate Jones away from Hero Lou and pick up the win. So this is one of the two prophecies they mentioned. So Fresco and Watson are the new FSW Tag Team Champions. Now our next match is the FSW No Limits Championship between challenger Danny Limelight versus Matt Van de Graaf. I thought this match was a more like a cruiserweight type match. You probably would have assumed it. Now, this match could have fallen in favor of Matt Van de Graaf, but however, some masked assailants showed up and attacked him, but it did give Danny Limelight the opportunity to put Matt Van de Graaf in a chokehold, forcing him to tap out. But however, it's still unclear who this masked assailant is. Now, one of the commentators saying that he believes that he knows who it is, but the other, who's playing bias, saying you don't know who it is. We just don't know it. So we'll just gotta wait and see on the next FSW event when it comes back. Now, before we proceed with our next three matches, because they were setting up the cages, the steel cage, because the last three are involved in that, we had the FSW Mega Champion Chris Bay. Now, I don't remember when he won this belt, but he did won it. He was congratulated by someone you guys already know, John Morrison, or as we know him, Johnny Multiple, because he had different multiple personalities. Apparently, Chris Bay is like he's saying that John Morrison, you can take your congratulation and stick it up your ass, because it's no secret to Chris Bay from what he's saying. You want this title, so you have to come and get it. And that's going to happen on Mecca 9. I don't know when that show is going to be. So it's basically like, I accept your challenge. I know exactly what you want. Then come and get it. So I think that played out pretty well. So we'll see what happens then. Now, our next match is match number 1 in a steel cage. This one is for the FSW Women's Championship. We have the former FSW champion, Maserati, taking on Viva Van. I have to say, this is one of the most bloodied matches I've ever watched, because from the way you can tell, like, Maserati knows that she lost this belt. She would do great lengths to get it back. But however, Viva Van, I felt like she was really pushed to the limit and did everything. But there was a moment where Maserati was bleeding out. You probably wouldn't expect that, but it did. But however, it was, of course, Viva Van when she put Maserati through a stack of unfolded chairs right on top of her. 1, 2, 3, she retained the title. So that is a pretty good match to watch. I think it was pretty amazing. Now, our next match, it's a regular standard steel cage match. We have Nick Bugatti taking on Nick Xander. This was also another brutal match, because it's more like, who is the biggest, craziest FSOB in this match? I mean, you can tell by the look of things that they wanted to torture each other with whatever toys are in there. I'm not talking about tables and ladders. We just saw thumbtacks and all that. But however, Nick Xander decided to end this by applying his seatbelt onto the neck of Nick Bugatti, and forced him to tap. So I thought that was like his way of like saying just give up already. So it just did. Now our final match is also in the steel cage, as I mentioned. This is for the FSW heavyweight championship. We have a member of the Lights Camera faction, Ice Williams, taking on Alex Hammerstone. This is one of those matches where you can tell, like, okay, Williams, who the faction mentioned, we're gonna prophesize ourselves walking out with 3 of the championships. I thought that kind of sets everything deal. Like no one was willing to give up that easily until the faction shows up, tries to ensure that this match goes in favor of Ice Williams. But luckily, the former tag champions, TBD, showed up to give a helping hand. But one of the other members, I don't know who it was, shows up, whacks um, Alex Hammerstone, giving um, Ice Williams the opportunity to escape the steel cage in order to win the match. So basically, their prophecy has finally been fulfilled. They walked out not only with the FSW Heavyweight Championship, but also the FSW Tag Team titles. So we'll see what happens next. Who will be the next challenger and all this and that. So we'll see from there. Hopefully, I get to see another FSW event, but if not, then I'll see what happens from there. So right now, let's move on to our final review, AEW Dark Elevation. Okay, our final review, AEW Dark Elevation. Our first match, we have the former 6-man tag team champions, 2/3 of the members, the Boys. Now, I don't know the name of these guys. Is real. I know that their real last names are Tate. I just don't know what their first names are. They take on JSA's um, Angelo Parker and Matt Menard. Now, you probably think that the Boys would try to evade every move, but however, they couldn't escape when Parker and Menard applied the double DDT, and it was over right from there. You know it was over. Now, we do get an interview with Smart Mark Sterling. Now, as you know, the varsity athletes are very technical, but Mark Sterling thinks the people are sick and tired of Blackpool Combat Club. Now, we all know nobody is tired of them because they are the toughest SOBs on the planet. So we'll see what happens in the main event. Now, our next match, we have Juice Robinson taking on Jake Christ. Surprising to see him, but it was great. But you probably guessed this is going to end with, of course, Juice Robinson. When he applied what he calls now Juice is Loose, it's like this inverted DDT, but the only is he has to use a way to sweep up, go up, and pull down into an inverted DDT, which is much quicker that way. So that's what he calls it now. And of course, Paul White mentioned it. Next match, we have Dark Order. Silver, Uno, and Reynolds taking on Crash Jackson, Rennie D, and Matt Brannigan. Now, you probably know this is going to be a fun match because when it comes to those three, they always work together very well. So it took only a pendulum bomb in order on Matt Brannigan for the Dark Order to walk out as the victors. Now, our next match, we got the magical girl, Yuka Sakazaki, taking on Billy Starks. Now, if you guys have been aware, Billy Starks did challenge Yuka Sakazaki for the Princess of Princess title in Tokyo Pro. I was like a bit surprised that they booked this match and not make it more of the title, but we're understandable. But in this particular match, we have seen on certain occasions with Billy Starks that had the upper hand on the top star. However, Yuka Sakazaki did not give up until she applied the magical girl splash. 1, 2, 3, it was over right from there. Now, our next interview by Lexi, we saw the Boys, but they were interrupted by none other than the Dark Order. So, basically, as you know, the Dark Order has not been in a good place since Preston Vance turned on them. They're determined to recruit them. Now, we don't know if the Boys will be interested, but if I know the Boys pretty well, they're not going to do it. So, basically, that's what's going to happen. Now, our next match, we have members of the Spanish Announce Project Luther and Serpentico teaming up with Zach Clayton, the reality, taking on the best friends Chuck and Trent, and of course, the current All Atlantic champion, um, Orange Cassidy, being accompanied by he's very nice and very evil Danhausen. This match was pretty good. I thought there was some good, funny moments on this. Not to mention, don't be careful with Danhausen because you don't want to be cursed. But in the end, it was of course a a orange punch onto Zach Clayton, then a double pinfall, a double choke slam, and then after that, Orange Cassidy picked up the win by pinfall, and that was all right from there. Then Angelico decided to get in the face of Orange Cassidy, but unfortunately, he got cursed by Danhausen. So yeah, that's what he gets for getting in his face. Next match, you have Powerhouse Hobbs versus Corey Cahoon. Um, Not so much of a surprise that this was going to end very quickly with Powerhouse Hobbs, so it kind of ended that way. I kind of figured that was going to happen. Next up, we got the Butcher and the Blade along with the Bunny taking on Top Flight Dante and Darius. I thought this match was pretty good, but I feel like this match also gave a much of a higher standard for Top Flight since we know that they could be the next tag team champions, but at the moment we know they'll be challenging for the trios titles with AR Fox, which is going to be good. But it took only a nosedive by Dante Martin onto the Blade. 1, 2, 3. It was over right from there. So their teamwork has always been played out pretty well. Next up, we got the women's 8-person tag match. We have Diamante, Emi Sakura, Marina Shafir, and Nyla Rose, along with Vicky Guerrero, taking on Heina Hera, Queen Aminata, Sky Blue, and Madison Rain. You probably think this match is going to be crazy. Not to mention, we have two queens involved. I'm talking about Emi Sakura and Queen Aminata. But in this case, this match in favor of Nyla Rose when she applied the Beast Bomb onto Hera, and it was over right from there. Now, our next match, we have our main event. We have the varsity. No, never mind. We have Ari Daivari and Tony Nese, along with Smart Mark Sterling, taking on the Blackpool Combat Club's Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta. So that you know for a fact that Sterling is gonna try to get involved, but he got his butt whooped. But this ended with a very interesting combination with, of course, um, Claudio applying the giant swing, and then later Wheeler applying a double foot drop, kick onto Ari Daivari, and of course he picked up the win, 1, 2, 3 with the pinfall. So there was some pretty good matches on this one, not gonna lie, despite if people don't watch it. But that's how I enjoy watching these things. So I think that's pretty much it right now with AEW Dark. I believe it's time to do news updates. Okay, news updates here. Now, I found an interesting tweet coming from MJF. He talks about Zachary Wentz. Now, you probably ask yourselves, why would he talk about Zachary Wentz? Well, he talked about something that kind of became more talked about. If you guys remember last year, Zachary Wentz was accused of abusing his his ex-wife Kimberly, but there was no evidence suggesting what happened. Now, it was told later that the reason this happened was because Zach made the decision that he was going to leave her, and she did not like that. So MJF is defending him, saying that he could have been a bigger star if it wasn't for Kimberly. Now, you ask yourselves, why would MJF defend Zachary Wentz? Well, recently, if you guys may have heard, there's a photo of Zachary Wentz with Gigi Dolan. I don't know if they're together or not, but the reason MJF is defending him is because, if you guys know this or not, MJF is Jewish. And I forgot what someone said, an offensive word to MJF, and no one checked up on him except one person, and that person was Zachary Wentz. So it's more like he's repaying a favor, saying, thanks for having my back, so I'm going to have yours. So I think that's what this tweet is all about. Like, you can say all you want about MJF, but I think that because of what happened to Zachary Wentz, I felt it was unfair that he was at the height of his career in WWE, but it was taken from him by his ex-wife. So I think that's kind of nice of him to do something like that. Now, some questions have been raised about in Tokyo Pro Wrestling. If you guys remember, they're going to be here in the States, in LA, for the WrestleMania week. Apparently, there was mention about Pom Harajuku, who will not be involved in this. Maki Itoh took this on her blog, uh, claiming that Tokyo Yoshi Pro Wrestling are making a big mistake in not bringing her. Now, we don't know what's the extent of why. Why they're not bringing Pom Harajuku? Now, I can only guess either they're having her with visa issues, or she didn't, or they just don't feel comfortable she's gonna be around. I don't know. There's still unanswered questions. Now, if Maki Itoh saying that it's a big mistake not having her in this show, I feel like she is trying to do everything in her power to defend her. Maybe try to plead a case saying bring her along. So I think that's pretty much what I believe, but I don't know. We'll just wait and see because, like I said, there's still some unanswered questions about that. Now, as you know, we got the Super Show taking place exactly on WrestleMania week. We have, of course, the Mark Hitchcock Memorial Show, or aka the Super Show. It's already announced that Black Taurus will be involved, and this is going to be a killer match, a killer for him to be there. But related to the WrestleCon, it's also announced that Matt Hardy is going to be there as well. So if you guys are planning to go see him, then go see him. Now, for the upcoming event next month in March for Wrestling Revolver DRIP, a couple of things have been updated for everyone. The Monster Hunter Matthew Palmer makes his return, and so does Dan the Dad. After losing the tag team titles to Bullet Club, I just don't know what is he gonna do. However, there a match has been already announced for that particular show with Wrestling Revolver DRIP. Steve Macklin will put his Revolver World Championship on the line against Rich Swann in a street fight. So that's going to be interesting. Now, up for Jersey Championship Wrestling, or JCW, they announced that for the March Madnezz event that's taking place also on the 4th of March, Spanish wrestler Carlos Romo will be making his debut. Now, when I mention Spanish, I'm not referring to Mexico or anything. I'm referring to wrestlers coming from Spain. If you hear me say Spanish, that means that this guy is coming from Spain. So just to put that out there, not to make anyone confused. Now, interesting news has come around with New Japan Pro Wrestling. They just announced for the NJPW Academy, which is the LA Dojo stuff. So basically, if you're going to want to be a full-time young lion, all you got to do is apply. I think they have everything on Twitter set up, but this is only for beginners and advanced for 12-week classics. So if you're planning to be a full-time young lion, then you can do it. If you know wrestlers who want to do that, let them know. Go on Twitter, figure that out. Right there. There's all the information is right there. Now for our GCW updates, as you know, we have the Jimmy Lloyd birthday party. It was already announced that Ciclopse will be in a match against Matthew Justice. Now keep in mind, these two guys have come across each other in tag team consistency, so we're going to see how they're going to do things in singles competition. Now for the middle of the night, that takes place on the 18th of February, Matt Cardona will be in a match against Nick Wayne. I think that's going to be a really, really interesting match. And then finally, for the Culture on the 30th of March, which is part of the WrestleMania week, it was announced that Kevin Knight of the LA Dojo will be there. So I have to say this is pretty good for him that now he's getting applied for that. Now, our final update, this one revolves about Kota Ibushi. As you guys remember, Kota Ibushi said he's considering opening up his own wrestling school. Well, he just announced the establishment. Now, not a whole lot of information about it, but he did state that he will do like freelance wrestling on his own terms. It's still unclear what he's going to do. Now, some of you may question, is he ever going to go to AEW? He said that he wants us to do this first and then maybe talk AEW. So we'll see what happens then. So I will put a pin on this one with Kota Ibushi. I know there's going to be a lot of things. I know that Ibushi has been talking to various people that I've been following on Twitter. Hopefully more information comes around about his wrestling school. So I think that's pretty much it. So let's just call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Sorry that I only did 2 reviews. Originally, I was supposed to do the House of Glory, but apparently the whole link was not was messed up, so I decided, not to fight it or anything, just skip it. Hopefully, I can redo that again. But however, as you know, we have Tuesday Wrestling coming up. We have, of course, NWA Power. Then we have AEW Dark, and then we cannot forget um, NXT. As you know, they'll be entering their Fallout after Vengeance Day. So the obvious question is, what will now Grayson Waller do now that he lost? If you guys may have heard, he disturbed Shawn Michaels when he was talking about Vengeance Day. Grayson Waller is not a happy camper that he lost this way. He thought that he was going to walk out as the victor, but it did not. However, we all know who is the next challenger for the NXT title against Braun Breaker. So we'll see what happens then. If there's any news updates, I will be posting. I will be throwing out. At this moment, I am working on the next Unagi Sayaka Watch episode. Certain things have come across upcoming matches that she will be involved. So stand by for that as well. So as of right now, I will see you guys in the next DWZ time. Same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye. Mwah. And have a nice day. Bang.